So welcome everybody, and as always, thanks to our sponsors, Volvo, and also Asics. My little logo there on my arm, on my LA Roadrunner shirt. And thanks to all of you for chiming in. Tonight's topic, I don't know, it might be a little controversial. We'll see. I hope we don't ruffle any feathers. It's certainly not meant to. Certainly, all of you need to make decisions about your own diet and your own lifestyle, but do them hopefully with some information. And that's what we're going to be providing here. No, you got to do this. No, you don't have to do this, but it's just good information that will help you along the way. So again, thanks for joining in. And here we go. As you all know, this is today's lecture is on carbohydrate, both during and a little discussion about right afterwards for a bit of our discussion. But as you all know, carbohydrates are not only evil, but if I mean, the carbohydrate we're talking about, like cookies, cake, potatoes, vegetables, fruit, a whole huge lump sum of things that have carbohydrates in them. Carbs are one of your major macronutrients, along with carbs, fats, and proteins. Those are the three major macronutrients. And if you're missing out on any one of them or deficient in any one of them, you'll be hungry. Doesn't matter how much carbs or fat you eat, if you don't have enough protein or any one of those, you're going to feel hungry. So that's good to note if you're not getting in enough of all three all macronutrients: carbs, fats, proteins. All right, you don't need equal amounts of all three. We'll get into that as we move along in a little deeper dive. But carbs can basically generate sugar. They metabolize into sugar. That's really what we're talking about. It's all pretty much the same. And one thing that you should know, if you eat even as much or as little as a cookie, demons from hell will rise up from the earth. They will surround you and encompass you and drag you forcefully back down into the gates of hell, where you will be kept forever. Or maybe that was a movie I saw somewhere once, I'm not sure. But at any rate, carbs have definitely been demonized, shall we say, and given kind of a bad rap. People who do the keto diet, are basically told you do not want to eat basically any carbs unless they're on a slightly altered keto diet where they have maybe some carbs, but not much. And in doing so, yes, you go through a period where you're really physically feeling that you're starving because you didn't take any carbs for a couple of days. But then after that, once you get through that period, we are told that your body metabolizes fats and turns them into the equivalent, not carbs, but the equivalent of carbohydrate, which we call ketones. Okay. The problem with ketones, and I've heard this from everyone I know on the ketogenic diet, even people who swear by the ketogenic diet, that ketones, you're never going to reach your peak speed, right? So if you're doing a high intensity interval training, your HIIT weekly training, which are on our schedules, usually they're called threshold repetition or threshold interval or repetition pace, T pace, I pace, or R pace. That would be basically HIIT training. Those things, you'll never be quite as fast doing those if you're on the ketogenic diet, unless you're doing carbs. So why is it that carbs have gotten this kind of like really bad rap? Well, here's the thing. Most people in our modern day society are pretty much sedentary. I won't go into that very much. You kind of get the picture, but without talking about statistics that might offend people. But let's just say that, when you're at a lower heart rate, you're using more fat. But when you're not moving that much, you're not utilizing as many calories. And when you start moving faster, you're using less and less and less fats, more and more and more carbohydrate. We know that from our little diagram here. You want to be in that fat burning aerobic zone. Whoops, went too far. You want to be in this fat burning aerobic zone as your heart rate, this line up here, your heart rate goes higher and higher and higher. You start utilizing less and less fat, more and more carbs, until you get up here, anaerobic threshold. You're not using any fat whatsoever. You're only using carbs. So carbs, when unused, become fat. But fat, when you're going at a higher heart rate, is not used. It's not consumed as much as you're consuming carbohydrate, right? So we all have a tendency to kind of keep on fat, unless, there's an old thing where if you see someone that during the course of marathon training, that their motivation was to lose weight and actually put on weight, chances are they're training like in here somewhere. They're not training down here where they need to be to utilize more fat. And in fact, they're utilizing more carbohydrate in these two zones in here and not utilizing fat, because they would be losing maybe at least a little bit of fat if they were at low enough heart rate. So that's a big mistake that a lot of people, maybe even most people, make in their training, of training up a little too high, or maybe even going anaerobic threshold and where you're using no fat whatsoever, and not getting thinner. Kenyans, these skinny guys and women, use huge volume of very, very low heart rate. They're able to do sub 5 minute per mile pace, and their training runs are more like 6:30, 7 minute per mile pace. I remember reading that Ryan Hall, when he was pro marathoner, this is a guy who set the U.S. marathon record for the fastest U.S. marathon record in the history of the United States. He was even claiming that he needed to slow down to 7 minute per mile pace. He was capable of doing sub 5 minute on marathons, but he needed to slow his pace down to 7 minutes per mile. So not even a minute slower, not even a minute and a half slower, but even slower than that. Because he needed to be doing over 2 minutes per mile slower than what he was doing on marathon race pace. Got it? And we're complaining that, oh my God, a minute per mile slower is too much. No. You want those low heart rate efforts. That's where you build endurance. That's where you build those capillary veins and arteries and mitochondria and oxidative enzymes. But now we're really talking about carbs. So really, you're going to utilize more fat at those lower heart rates. You're going to build more of this baseline. I know we've talked about all this before. So let's go back to our lecture. So yes, you do benefit from taking in eating carbohydrates. That yes, you're going to utilize at more of a high heart rate. If you don't utilize them, they'll turn into fat. But hopefully, you're also doing most of your training at low heart rate, where you're turning fat, metabolizing fat into resources for fuel. The fuel we use is called ATP, adenosine triphosphate. 3 particles, 3 phosphate molecules combined, and one breaks away from the other, firing out an electron that causes your muscles to relax and open up. I won't explain that any further in this one, but let's move further and say that there are healthy, as well as there are healthy fats, there are healthy carbohydrates, and they a lot of times come in the form of fruit and vegetables. You need to eat vegetables. Your mom was right. Vegetables are packed with micronutrients. I know we talked about macro, fat, carbs, and protein. These are micronutrients. Among the vital micronutrients you need are vitamins, right? And vitamins, by the way, include oxidative antioxidative enzymes that keep your body from creating. I'm trying to mute someone anyway. From creating cancer. So you need your vegetables to do that. That's a really important part of diet, is eat vegetables. Also, you need your body utilizes minerals, especially things like sodium. Tomatoes have a huge volume of sodium, and be careful, anyone who has high blood pressure or heart disease, be careful with high volumes of sodium, like in tomatoes. But tomatoes also include lycopene, which is a really, really powerful antioxidant, again, helping you not get cancer. These are all really powerful things that you want. Vegetables, fruit, also tons of minerals, huge volumes of potassium. Bananas have more potassium than any other fruit. The thing with fruit where it's not going to spike your insulin levels and cause your body to crash energy-wise is fruit and vegetables contain fiber, right? Orange juice does not have fiber, or fruit juice. I even heard a lecture on this the other day. Fruit juice is not considered healthy because it doesn't have that fiber to slow the uptake of carbohydrate. Now, normal fruit, normal vegetables have a ton of fiber. The fiber keeps your body from absorbing those carbohydrates at an alarming rate. Got it? So you want fruit or vegetables, the real deal, not just the juice, because it has fruit. Your body won't absorb those carbs really quickly, and it turn it into use your pancreas to raise your insulin levels, which causes your body to crash, like eating a bunch of cookies or a piece of cake or all that causes your energy to just crash. No fiber in any of that. So similar to fat and protein, there are really good, healthy forms of carbohydrate in the forms of fruits and vegetables, which you really do need to eat. I cannot emphasize that enough. Now, when it comes to your running, you do metabolize carbohydrates at a higher level, even when you're running at a low heart rate, right? Even just a slightly elevated heart rate, you're still using a little more carbohydrate than normal. And that's okay, because you're taking in carbohydrate in the form of gels, which I know are, yes, processed sugar. They're the same, just as bad as cookies. If you're taking in a gel, same deal. Maltodextrin is one of the main ingredients of most gels. There are some that use other things, but also now a lot of cookies and cake use maltodextrin. It's a form of processed sugar. Gels, cookies, cake, same thing. The only reason we don't eat cookies and cake on a run, where your body will metabolize carbohydrate sugars more quickly, so you don't crash and burn, so to speak, while you're running, is that our bodies utilize our blood and divert the blood away from the stomach to your arms and legs that you're using to run with or walk with or walk with or whatever. Oh wait, I have an idea. I should, there we go. Okay. So the deal is you don't want to eat solids because your stomach won't really be able to deal with them very easily, because they're not as easily digestible, and you'd probably get a stomach ache if you ate a bagel or you ate a piece of cake or a cookie during a run. Same thing with not the same thing with gels. You won't get a stomach ache, but gels are pretty much the same processed sugar. They do have some minerals in them, which is important. They do have some sodium, which is important for hydration uptake. You need sodium to absorb hydration. But early season, you do, when you're not really going that far, like this weekend, sub 4 hour groups, most of our groups are going 10 miles for the first time. Yay, congratulations. You're going double digits, 1, 0, 10. You're going this Saturday, any of our locations, or Sunday in Newport Beach. We're all going 10 miles. Sunday, we're going all the way around the Back Bay, which is really a cool run. We're going around the whole thing for the first time all season at the Back Bay on Sunday. If any one of you want to join us at the Back Bay, feel free. The Muth Center. Look on your Google Maps for MUTH Muth Center in Newport Beach in Orange County. Anyway, so avoid taking in gels right now and make sure you're focusing on low enough heart rate. Got it? You're not out there for that long a time where you're really going to need gels early season. Train your body to utilize fat at lower heart rate. And if you're not low enough heart rate, we're really, you can't go on without utilizing carbs like gels on a 10-mile run, or gummies or whatever you're using in the form of carbohydrate for 10 miles. You're probably going too fast. You're probably at too fast a heart rate for your training. And again, in order to develop those, the capillary veins and arteries, oxidative enzymes, mitochondria, you really, really need to be low heart rate. And if you're needing to take in gels, you're probably not at low enough heart rate. Later in the season, start taking in that evil demon known as carbohydrate, and we do that mostly in the form of gels. So what do we eat during a workout? Well, basically, when we get up a little higher in volume, obviously you need hydration, but as we get up a little higher in volume, you're going to need to be able to take in carbs. When we humans basically all of us have about 80 to 90 minutes of non-pro athletes, 80 to 90 minutes of carbohydrate before we hit the wall, meaning our carbohydrate, our glycogen, carbohydrate becomes glycogen. Glycogen is what you metabolize into ATP, or fuel. So as you're going farther and farther and farther, you're using more and more glycogen. If you can maintain your glycogen levels throughout a race by keeping a low enough heart rate, and from point 1, starting to take in carbohydrate like every 40 minutes or so, take in another gel, you can maintain that glycogen reservoir. So you're really not going to crash and burn until late in the marathon. And your heart rate starts going higher and higher and higher and higher and higher and higher and higher with dehydration and fatigue, so that toward the end of your marathon, your heart rate is pretty up there. You're using way more carbohydrate than fat And you're really going to start depleting your carbohydrate levels toward the end of your race. But if you've maintained a really high carbohydrate level by intake and low heart rate throughout that marathon, especially the hills in the first 6 miles of the LA Marathon, by not racing, spiking your heart rate too high, going up those hills, first 6 miles, key to the LA Marathon. You'll do great at the end of your marathon, and you'll probably be able to speed up and just keep taking in a few gels to add more carbohydrate to that glycogen level, and you'll be doing great. But right now, early season, try to avoid taking in any carbs on your run at all. Now, after your workout, here's the deal. After your workout, realistically speaking, you don't really need to eat for a few hours unless you're going to be doing like a morning workout and then an evening workout or a workout later in the day. Like maybe you're going dancing that evening. You need to refuel. It can take 24 hours to fully replenish carbohydrate levels before you can really do a full workout again, so to speak. So if you are even thinking of doing another workout within the next 24-hour period, which most of us sort of kind of do, because you end your workout and then 23 hours later, maybe you'll do another hour workout or something. So you probably do want to eat some carbs right after your workout. We always do have some form of carbs, usually right after the workout, more and more as we progress in volume in the season. So also the other thing is you do during running or walking, or run walking, of course, we do similar to strength training, we do break these little tiny filaments, these microscopic filaments, submicroscopic really, we don't really even see them with microscopes. These little strands of single beads of protein molecules that break, and we need to replenish them. And because they're all protein, we need protein to rebuild them. Got it? Broken, lost protein. We need more protein to rebuild them. Really simple to rebuild these strands of protein molecules. So there is a benefit to, especially for thinking of doing a workout, within a 24-hour period. As I say, most of us kind of do. 23 hours later, we may do next day another workout. You might want to consider bringing something like a protein shake. Just put the powder in a bottle and have a little bottle of water in your car so that you can pour the water into the bottle and shake it up as you're driving home and drinking some protein and some carbs. So, yeah, but again, you could wait until you have a meal for the protein. You could theoretically, if the next day is a day off, well, you could have, wait for your next meal. On the other hand, there is the problem if you go a good long distance and you're really, really hungry at the end of your run, it's good to start taking in carbs and proteins and even some healthy fats pretty quickly, because you don't want to start cannibalizing muscle tissue to turn the protein in your muscles, to turn that into energy that you're going to use to just walk around with. Right? I tend to have low blood pressure. Anyone with low blood pressure knows you need to eat consistently, right? So I pretty much, when even on those long mornings when I'm just walking around pouring water and, picking up the awning and all that stuff and waiting for you guys, I will invariably, right after a workout, I'll have a bar in my car so that I can eat, because I have low blood pressure. I need to keep eating consistent meals. And that would be true with any one of you that has low blood pressure. High blood pressure, a whole different story. Be careful, like I said, of too much sodium, but you do need some sodium. At any rate, with that, I am done talking about the evil carbohydrate topic. And I've gone on probably far too long, but I have to ask the question is, do any of you, the next number 8 on this, I'm not sure you can see that, any of you, but says Q&A. Do any of you have any questions? And we are being recorded. The questions we've been getting in the past have been really pretty amazing and insightful. And there is no such thing as a stupid question, because invariably someone is going to gain information from your question just having you ask it. So all questions are really good. I've yet to hear a dumb question. I can't even imagine what that would be. Someone take a shot. See if you can find a dumb question. See if that's even possible. Take a shot at it. Let's see what we have in it. Yes, you can always scroll your cursor across the screen and click on your mute button, and then you can talk.
I'll ask a question.
Yeah, great. Go ahead.
Okay. So what are some foods that we should avoid for, this training season?
Got it. Now you're talking more about like normal diet.
Yes.
I've really just been kind of sticking to during the run or really briefly after the run. So now you're talking about really normal diet. And normal diet, pretty much all those things that you think of that are really unhealthy. I heard a lecture the other day. I watch all these YouTube lectures. I heard a lecture the other day. Oh, Marvin, hi. That I saw you wave. Thank you. This guy, a neurologist, actually spoke to a class of children, and he had all these different foods on the screen. And he said, what's healthy, what's not healthy. And the only thing that the kids didn't quite get was orange juice. They put that in the healthy column, where orange juice, I just had 2 oranges with my dinner, but orange juice, because it has no fiber, like I say, would be one to avoid. So a lot of processed sugary stuff, cookies, cake, candy. I mean, obviously, even on occasion, I'll have something like that. You don't want to eat too much of it. It can actually premature age you, causing wrinkles. It can eventually, if you have a lot of it, shrink DNA, so you age prematurely. All bad stuff. But you do want to take in vegetables and fruits and healthy sources of protein, whatever that is for you. I'm a vegan, so I swear by like tofu and lentils and what else? There were green peas are packed with protein, just as much as red meat, which I avoid like the plague. But everyone chooses their own, volume of things to eat or not.
What are some good vegetables that you would recommend?
Well, green peas are vegetables. I mentioned earlier tomatoes, but they're high in sodium. If you have high blood pressure, you may want to maybe avoid too much in the way of tomatoes.
Okay.
Salsa, tomatoes, loaded with lycopene. It's an antioxidant. It keeps you from getting cancer. Great stuff, tomatoes, even salsa has sodium in it that will help replenish your sodium levels. So we sweat out sodium. Those are minerals that you need. You get a lot of that, potassium, another electrolytic mineral that you get from fruits. All those things that you normally would think of as healthy food, yeah, go for that. Before, during, and pretty much after, you want to make sure you're taking in some healthy form of carbohydrate, even in the form of toast, before a race. I will tell you this, because it's sort of on topic, right before the race, too far in advance, you don't want to take in a gel. You wouldn't want to eat like a box of cookies like an hour before the race, because it causes your insulin levels to spike, which will cause your carbohydrate, your sugar levels to crash, your energy levels will crash with it. So same thing with a gel. You don't want to take a gel, more than, pardon me, like 10 minutes before a race. But one thing that I do that you may want to do, I just recommended to somebody who called me this afternoon. He's doing a marathon this Sunday. And he asked me about gels before the race. I said, well, when they're playing the national anthem, and you're on the start line and they start playing the national anthem, unless the wheelchair people are going and then the pro athletes are going, and like within 5 minutes of your start of the race, when they're playing the national anthem before everyone starts, right? That would be a good time to take a gel. Have a little tiny, one of those little tiny, any race, any marathon, any
before
race.
the race.
Before the race, right before the race, to really kind of top off your glycogen levels.
Okay.
Because the thing is when you start running or elevate your heart rate walking, or elevate your heart rate running, and obviously run walkers are doing both of those things. I don't want to leave them out. Your body starts to metabolize carbohydrate and turn it into glycogen much quicker. So it won't spike your insulin levels as to if you were to just take in a gel and stand there for 20 minutes. That would cause your energy levels to crash, because your pancreas would generate more insulin, which would deplete your sugar levels. And you don't want to do that. You want to turn that sugar into glycogen, which your higher heart rate on the run or walk will do that. So right before you start, you could take in a gel right before you start, or right as you're walking toward the starting line, and then have that little bottle of water, flush it down, wash it down with a little bottle of water, throw the bottle over the wall, or kind of toss it to the side so you don't hit somebody, or ask people to, will you throw my bottle over the wall, and they'll get it over there.
Can I use a kind of beer?
What's that?
Just kidding.
No, beer. Oh yeah, good. That there, that
I'm just kidding.
the only, I know you're kidding. That would have been the only questionable question that obviously, as you know, alcohol is a diuretic. You don't want to take alcohol during a marathon and deplete your hydration levels, as alcohol will in any form, including beer. No alcohol beer. Sure, go for it. Non-alcoholic beer. Great, go for it.
No. Last question, Coach.
Sure, all good.
Any foods that you would recommend to help in preventing from getting cramps?
Yeah, this is a weird one, and it's a really good question. I really mean that. It sounds strange for a lot of people, but the answer may sound strange too. Pickle juice. Scientific, I'm not kidding.
What is pickle juice?
The juice that pickles come in. You got a jar of pickles.
Yeah,
you pour that into a little tiny, 1 ounce little thing, or you just pour it into a glass and drink some of it.
Really?
Pickle juice is really good for preventing cramps.
Oh wow. Okay.
Not for everybody. They actually, I kid you not, they actually sell a product on the market. The product is called pickle juice. It comes in little tiny bottles. It's somewhat expensive, and all it is pickle juice.
Really?
Right? You do not need to buy a thing of pickle juice if you like pickles. Like, I got a jar of pickles in my refrigerator. All I need to do is pour it into a little thing and take it with me on the marathon. And if I'm prone to cramping or whatever, drink that little thing of pickle juice if I'm starting to feel like I'm cramping. And most people, not everybody, but most people, it will subside that sense of cramping.
Wow, did not know that.
Who knew? Pickle juice.
Yeah.
Wow. I've heard mustard seed, though I don't know how the hell you take in
Marvin,
mustard.
this is it.
But
I don't even see it.
Oh, I see it. Thank you. Orly, thank you.
There you
Pickle juice.
go. Oh, or Orly
How
is
does it, how
holding
does
up.
it taste?
It tastes like pickles.
Oh,
Is Orly holding up pickles? I don't know.
I had no idea.
Yeah,
Anyway,
no, it's like the actual product. I don't know why it's not showing correctly. That's the
oh,
No,
actual
I
product.
see it. I see it.
there you
Is it?
go, right
I
there.
see it.
There is a product.
It's blurry. I don't know why, but
Wow.
yeah.
It's a little
I'm sorry,
blurry.
coach, you're saying to take it during the race or before?
Either, you know, obviously, if you're starting to feel cramping during the race, it's
Mhm.
good to have with you. You know, I mean, everything kind of wears off after a while.
Yeah.
And usually, there are several reasons for cramping. One is fatigue. So strength training could help with that, you know, going into the gym, doing strength training for your legs, whatever. The other one would be lack of minerals like sodium. And I have found that generally speaking, at least this is my empirical experience, not based on any studies, but I found taking in like a mineral pill somehow opens up the pathways to from the nerve to the muscle. The nerve and the muscle are called the motor nerve. The combination is called the motor nerve, the nerve and the muscle, and calms somehow that nerve down. Because what they think cramping is it's a spasm of the nerve, which causes the muscle to tighten up, right, and not release. You know, normally ATP will fire off adenosine triphosphate, the 3-1 will break away from the other two, firing off an electron and open up that muscle. But for some reason, because of the nerve is kind of spasming, it locks up the muscle. It won't allow the muscle to function, probably because the neurological function is just now, you know, going wacko, right? They don't really know. These are theories. But so minerals, strength, or fatigue, those are kind of two different things that we theorize cause muscle cramping. But for some reason, things that have a really kind of sour taste, like pickles, you know the taste of pickles. Pickle juice is the same flavor. Things like that. There was a product that was made mostly with ginger that used to work really, really well. They took it off the market because just I don't know if it's still, it may be still on the market. I don't remember the name of it even. I just haven't heard about it lately. It may still be on there and I don't remember the name of it, but it used to work really well. At any rate, all of those things do seem to help with cramping.
That does help. Thank you. And Orly, thank you so much for showing that bottle. Appreciate it.
Oh yeah, Orly,
Yeah,
thanks
you.
for the
Thank you.
assist.
Yes, thank you.
Sure. It
Yeah.
actually tastes once. I don't know if you'll like pickles by itself or not,
I
but
do not. I actually do not. I usually order like hamburgers, no pickles.
but I mean, I don't know. I it gets to a point that I really like it during like once the mileage gets longer, because it besides the beneficial, I don't know, parts of it that it has, it breaks up the monotony of having a lot of sweets, because you know while we're running, it's the gels, it's the sugary things, like we're the electrolytes, whatever we're drinking, it's mostly everything is sweet, 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 and after a while it just like, I don't know, it breaks that up. It's a little bit salty, it's a little, you get your salt, you get your sour, you get all of that, so it breaks it up. And then it actually tastes really good once you, I don't know, or maybe like we get crazy after a couple hours under the sun and it just hits different. I don't know, but give it a try. It's really good.
I probably will. I mean, I don't like pickles, but I can try it. Thank you, appreciate it. And you feel that it helps you.
Yeah. I mean, I just did about 22 miles this week with my friend, And after about, I want to say mile 14 or something, I had a little shot of this and we just kept going.
Wow, nice, very nice.
Yeah.
Thank you, Arlie.
There is actually there is science behind pickle juice. As strange as it may seem, there are some studies that all have concluded it does really work. There is a product from a company called Highlands, Hylands, Highlands. You can find it certainly you can find everything on the internet, but most health food stores carry Highlands products, and they do have an anti-cramping pill. It's not as effective. It doesn't work for everyone, as I say, though certainly neither does pickle juice. But from what I'm understanding, the Highlands pill doesn't work as well as pickle juice. But there is that pill on the market from Highlands you can try. And as I say, what I've seen, when you start cramping, if you take in a mineral pill, keep in mind if you have high blood pressure, it does contain sodium, which we need during the race, but it does contain sodium, which will raise your heart, your blood pressure a little bit. Obviously, I have low blood pressure, so I don't have a problem raising my blood pressure. That's not a bad thing for me. It's a good thing, but within reason. But yeah, you could try mineral pills during the race when you start to cramp as well. If you're not taking a vial of pickle juice with you.
All right. Well, thank you.
Sure, Marvin. Great. Good. Let's go to our chat box, and then we'll go back to live. Anyone with a question? I have a couple things. Similarly, what about electrolyte that was given to us? Should we be drinking that at the end of the workout or during the run, since it has glucose? Please advise. Thank you. Yeah, electrolyte, doesn't have quite as much. It doesn't have quite as much in the way of carbohydrates in it as like Gatorade or Nuun. But on the other hand, that's one of the gems of it. You can drink more of it. So take in more hydration, right? Liquid water, and not take in too much in the way of carbohydrate that's going to make you sick. The average human being can only take in, if you're really trained with it, you can up this. But the average human being can only take in about 60 to 66 grams of carbohydrate per hour, within variable reason. If you're bigger, you're smaller, or whatever. And then after that, you start getting nauseous because your body just can't. It's like, you ate as a kid, a box of cookies when you were a kid and you started feeling like sick. Your body can only absorb so many carbohydrates before it wants to get rid of it and you feel nauseous. At any rate, so electrolyte has lower carbohydrates, so you can take in more of it. It also has lower sodium levels, so you won't really spike your blood pressure with that. On a hot day, electrolyte by itself, well, Gatorade, none of them are going to have enough sodium in them to have on a hot day. You sweat more on a hot day. You need more sodium. So electrolyte alone, Gatorade alone, Nuun alone, none of them are going to have enough sodium. You'd need a mineral pill if it's going into the 80s. If it's going into the upper 70s, lower 80s, I would always go with a mineral pill. You'll do far better. If you deplete your sodium levels too much, you develop what's called hyponatremia, which means, simply stated, low sodium levels, and low sodium levels to a low level enough where, you need sodium to absorb liquid into your system, right? Without sodium or lower levels of sodium, you don't absorb that liquid that you drink in. So you could start drinking in tons and tons of water, and you're not absorbing it. It'll sit in your stomach. You may feel water sloshing around in your stomach, not enough sodium to absorb it. Or you may feel nauseous. because there's water sitting in your stomach, and your body now wants to get rid of it because it's not absorbing it. So no matter how much water you take in, you can actually get to a point you cannot absorb it because of this hyponatremia condition. Simply, you don't have enough sodium to help absorb that hydration. So you become more and more and more and more dehydrated, even though you're drinking more and more and more. You might even get to a point where you start throwing up water because your body wants to get rid of it now. And that's a really dangerous place to be, because the less and less hydration you have, the harder and harder your heart works to push less and less volumes of blood through itself. So you always want to take pretty simple, I mean, you drink these, electrolyte, you get some sodium. You take in a mineral pill, you get some sodium. You take a gel, you get some sodium. There's sodium in all of those things, specifically designed so you don't get too low a level in sodium. But if you have any of those symptoms, consider how much sodium have you been taking in an hour? How warm is it outside? Is it in the 80s? Do you need to take in more sodium than what electrolyte will, or any of these liquid sport drinks will provide? So the answer to your question is electrolyte is provided on the LA Marathon course. I believe, I may be wrong about this. It's definitely at least, maybe every mile. I'm not sure. It's either every mile or every other mile, but certainly it's out there a lot. Electrolyte on the course. It's either every mile or every other mile. I don't remember which. But yeah, because it's it's sugar levels, because electrolyte has lower sugar levels, you could almost theoretically drink electrolyte like every other mile, every mile. And that would be highly beneficial during your run, because keep in mind, you're exactly as you say, you're replenishing glycogen from taking in sugar. Glucose is one form of sugar. Fructose and glucose combined are, sugar. That's what's in fruit. That's what's in, everything. That's sugar, glucose and fructose. There are variations of that. That's why they have different names, like maltodextrin is a different variation of glucose and fructose, and something else, I believe it has some sucrose in it. But at any rate, all sugar. So there you go. Yeah, you could definitely benefit from taking electrolyte during and after. So there's that one. To replenish carb levels, and sodium mineral levels. It's got a lot of minerals in there, a lot of potassium, a lot of really good calcium, a lot of really good minerals are in electrolyte. Hence the name, electrolytes, electrolyte. Get the picture? There you go. What are some suggestions other than gels to eat during the race? I'm not a fan of goo. How often should you consume these? Got it. Everybody has a gel or something that they can or cannot do. Frankly, I can do goo, but truthfully, I prefer a mineral pill for the minerals, and I prefer baby food. Basically, you're taking in mulched fruit. You're getting in the same healthy sugar content with a little fiber. It takes a little slower to absorb. You're not getting it into your bloodstream right away. But then on the other hand, you don't risk, somehow or another, it does work better for me. Keep in mind, I'm a little slower, maybe a little lower heart rate during the race. So at any rate, I love like baby food, but then baby food doesn't have sodium in it usually. So I'll take in a mineral pill to make up for that. So those are all good. I find people that can't do gels, that's a good alternative. I can do gels. I really don't have stomach distress. It takes a lot for me to, I need to eat something like a bagel before I get some stomach distress, or a bar or something soft before I get any real stomach distress. And that's even then, it's pretty minimal. I've been known to eat a bar right before the run of a triathlon, and yeah, I feel a little something, but I can keep going.
Good job. Thank you.
So you're not a fan of goo. Hopefully that gave you some options, either a different kind of a gel or try baby food. I think all of those, it is a trial and error. Everyone is different. I totally get that. Some people don't do well with goo, but they do okay with Cliff Shots. Some people don't do well with Cliff Shots. They do okay with goo. You never know. All right. Mel, appreciate the information. I thank you, Mel. Great. What's the science behind alkaline water for us? Well, we don't really know that. That's the question. Basically, the one thing about running is running does generate acid. One of the waste products of running is lactic acid. And what lactic acid is one molecule of lactate, one molecule of hydrogen, right? And anything that hydrogen pretty much bonds with becomes an acid, right? So right after you emit this lactic acid, the lactate will break away and go through your bloodstream and actually become glycogen, surprise, surprise, that you use at higher heart rate. So the more capillary veins and arteries you have, the fat from the low heart rate running, the more glycogen you get from reprocessing lactate, right? Lactate becomes glycogen, right? But the hydrogen molecule, remember, one molecule lactate, one molecule hydrogen. The hydrogen molecule will break off and form with something else in your bloodstream. And so you got a lot more acid in your bloodstream than you did before you started running. Okay. Now, here's the problem. When you drink alkaline water, which will raise, your acidic content back up to like a more neutral level, and let me see if I can get rid of that background noise and mute somebody. But when you do get back when you do take in more alkaline water, as the theory suggests, then you can reduce the acid, you can reduce the hydrogen. Now, the hydrogen molecules do go away after a while, and because they go out of your bloodstream, you exhale them. Hydrogen is a gas. All these waste product gases, nitrogen, CO2, although those aren't acids, hydrogen, you do exhale eventually. But eventually. Now, here's the problem with the alkaline water thing. We don't really know. Your body compensates pretty much for anything you put into it. Keep in mind, vegetables are one of the only foods that are alkaline base, right? All foods, except for some fruits, some fruits are actually alkaline. But even like apples are acid base. Oranges are acid base. Citric acid is in oranges. It's an acid. Some fruits are alkaline base. All vegetables are alkaline base. Another reason to eat your vegetables, right? So here's the problem. If you take in a lot of alkaline in water or in vegetables, and I tend to think this is a good thing, your stomach is filled with acid. That's one of the ways you eat up. Your stomach acid can eat away like a table. It's really high acid. It can break up food and eat away food and metabolize it into nutrients, and it sends it to different parts of your body, whatever. And it goes to do different things. But I'm tempted to say if you take in too much alkaline water, your body will compensate by creating more acid in the stomach. Now, this is just a theory. We don't really know. We do know your body does compensate for whatever you put into it. It'll create more acid, it'll create more alkaline. You don't really want it to create more alkaline because then it metabolizes things like bone marrow from calcium, and to create alkaline. So it's good to eat vegetables. I do tend to think, there's no question, vegetables are really, really good. Some alkaline water, absolutely really good. I think if you're drinking gallons and gallons of alkaline water, it would probably get to a point where your body, after a while, would start creating more acid. Maybe that falls under the category that too much of any good thing is probably a bad thing. But I'm guessing that would probably take a fair amount of alkaline water to start generating more. Your body would start generating more acid to compensate for all the alkalinity you're taking in. But I think there's something to that. It's all in a balance. Eat all the vegetables, salads, everything you want. There's so much in micronutrients and that stuff. And yes, they're all alkaline, all good stuff. Don't even worry about that. But truckloads, gallons of alkaline water, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Some probably, yeah, absolutely. Too much, I don't know. Maybe you're not really capable of drinking too much water. I don't know. But it's something to consider theoretically. Any other questions, either in the chat or verbally? Let me see, go back to the chat. Anything else? Oh,
David, question for you.
Sure.
For like carb loading, all of that stuff. I know we're the night before isn't the thing we're supposed to do. It's supposed to be like 2 days, 3 days, just in advance and everything. But is there a difference between the different types of carbs? Traditionally it's, everybody talks about the pasta, but pasta obviously is not it. There is like rice, potatoes, bread, the simple carbs that I'm used to. But between all of those things, is there a difference? Is one better than the other? Or as long as we get the basic simple carbs, that's what should matter?
Well, eating, these are carbs. Eating cookies, cake, and ice cream for your meal the night before and the morning of your race will probably make you sick for your race. So I can't recommend those forms of, carbs become sugar, right? I can't recommend those forms of sugar, because they come along with so many unhealthy things, like really unhealthy fats come along with cookies and cakes and what else did I say? Ice cream, so I can't recommend those forms of carbs because they come along with so many unhealthy things. But, like you mentioned, different forms of pasta, different forms of like baked potatoes are filled with micronutrients. Let's keep in mind that potato is, I believe it's considered a vegetable because it doesn't have pits inside of it. I think the difference is fruit has pits inside of it. I may be wrong on that one. Whatever the definition, I know what a fruit is. I'm not sure of the definition. I think that might be it. So yeah, all that stuff, fruit, pasta, bread, all that stuff in the form of carbs, all good stuff, baked potatoes, vegetables, all good stuff. It's the bad stuff that you want to avoid putting into it. You don't want to start putting in lard with, your vegetables or whatever it is that, you don't want to start putting in the unhealthy things that mix with it. I think that hopefully answers it. I mean, we all kind of know what's healthy form of carb, go for it. You know, the other thing is, you know, take a look at what are you imagining you're craving for? I mean, what are you craving? Are you craving, you know, if you eat pasta every, you know, the night before every race, you'll probably crave pasta the night before every race, you know, and that's okay. The one thing is I would recommend is don't eat too much of anything, because you'll wake up all bloated and gassy, you know, carbohydrate wise. You'll wake up all bloated and gassy in the morning and not want to run, you know. So be careful on the volume of all these carbohydrates that you eat. You know, you don't want to give a mound of pasta, you know, I mean, and stuff yourself till you're uncomfortable. Then you'll wake up in the morning uncomfortable. You know, you don't want to do that.
Right. Right. No, it's somebody in my group actually was asking, like, what's the difference between rice and pasta or potatoes if we're carb loading? Is there a difference between the types of traditional things that we eat the night before, the day before, 2 days before? To me, it's just personal preference, because I feel like those are the same. Like, I don't know, but I thought I should ask you, like, is there a difference between, I mean, obviously, okay, cookies and cake and ice cream are different than rice and potatoes and pasta,
I'm so
but
sorry, you
between
guys. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, but between the good carbs, is there one more superior than the other?
Not really. I think they just have different caloric content. So you may need to eat more of one than the other. You know, like pasta is probably a little more carbohydrate dense, maybe than a baked potato. On the other hand, a baked potato will have more micronutrients in it, meaning vitamins and minerals. So you know, for me to say, oh yeah, of course you could always put you know, bake a potato, chop it up and put it in with pasta. You know, I mean, that sounds good. A little olive oil, you know, there are tons of great healthy carbs. Yeah, you know, same with rice. Rice is a good form of carbohydrate. You know, I don't know that there's a huge difference. They all kind of metabolize eventually into sugar. So
And
hopefully that answered it.
one last
Mhm.
question. Is it true that if you have dairy with the carbs, the dairy would counteract the carbs and it's not going to give you what it's supposed to give you? Or is that like so I don't know. I've heard that, but I don't know.
Honest
Curious.
to God, I have never heard that one in my entire life. We're learning new
Oh,
things all the time. I don't know. I have no idea. I have never heard that about dairy.
hmm.
Frankly, as a vegan, I avoid dairy, but and I am a little lactose intolerant. So I don't eat dairy. So I really have no idea.
Hmm.
Um, yeah.
Okay. So I think it's probably something I've heard it from a few people that, oh, you're supposed to avoid the dairy because the dairy counteracts the carbs you're trying to store in your body. And I was like, the pasta that I eat has a lot of parm on top of it. That's just what I've gotten used to. So am I just negating all the benefits? I wasn't sure.
I never heard that. I tend to question a lot of the information that's out there. You know, I mean, traditionally people always put like Parmesan cheese. That's a dairy product on your pasta. I don't eat dairy. I'll put tomato sauce on my, you know, spaghetti sauce, a jar of ragu or whatever with garlic and all that. All good stuff. But I'll put that on a pasta. But no, I avoid cheese. But that's the tradition. This Parmesan cheese, tons of it on your pasta with the spaghetti sauce and the meatballs and all that stuff. I never heard that. I have no clue that violates the tradition. I've never heard that.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense to me. that dairy would stop you from being able to absorb carbs. I mean, that doesn't really make sense because there's nothing that I know of that would, alter that dietary process. Dairy would be more protein oriented, generally speaking. It does have some carbs in it. Yeah, it does have some. I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't. One of those things that just doesn't really add up when you really stop and think about it. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's some new study that I've never heard about, but I've never heard that that dairy depletes the uptake of carbohydrate. I've never heard that.
Awesome. That's good news.
Yeah. I put on Parmesan cheese. I don't know. I don't do it, but I don't put any cheese or any of that stuff. I don't eat dairy. But good. Yeah, good questions. Yeah, I never heard that one. That's funny. How should run walkers fuel during training? Should we also strive to do 10 miles without anything other than electrolytes? Yeah, run walkers are the same as runners, same as walkers. You guys have the same metabolism. Part of the time you're running, the walk is really designed just to lower your heart rate back down to a little bit before you raise it up again, and then you'll lower it back down again. But at any rate, I won't go into the run walk at great length, but yeah, same deal. I mean, if you really need, you might be a little slower than the runners. If you're out there for more than 80, 90 minutes, that's where you begin to find, okay, I'm going to hit the wall. If I'm going a little bit higher than marathon race pace, if my training estimation is a little too high, maybe I'm in run walk 1 and I should be in run walk 4 or 3. My heart rate's a little too high, too long, then I would need a gel. So reconsider what group you're in. What how high your heart rate is able to get. But yeah, even for 10 miles, yeah, you're going over 80, 90 minutes, utilizing more carbs, but you probably aren't going to run out of them. See how you do. It's always good at this point to have a gel in your pocket and maybe not take it. Maybe you train your body to use more fat as a resource for fuel. All good stuff. That's what I would suggest. All same as runners, same as walkers. It's just you're a little slower than some of the runners out there. So you're the greater the time, meaning if you're too high heart rate, you're going to use up more of that glycogen and you may need a gel. So, but hopefully on the marathon, you'll kind of get in the right group and you won't be utilizing too much carbohydrate too quickly. And, from the beginning, you'll be taking in carbs and you're good to go to the end. Because like I said, your heart rate's going up and up and up and up. And as you go up and up and up with the mileage, dehydration, and fatigue, you're using more carbohydrate. And so you take in carbs throughout the whole race. That's where you really need carbs, is a longer efforts, hopefully, right from the beginning. Anyway, let's see, did I get all that? Yeah. Mariana, got it. Thanks. Thank you, Mariana. Any other questions verbally or otherwise?
I have a question.
Sure. Great.
Okay, so as we get into the longer mileage,
Mhm.
almost always towards the end of the run,
Mhm.
I run out of gas.
Mhm.
And I need to supplement. Okay, in the morning, I usually have like a bagel. I'll have a bagel because I have a very sensitive stomach, and if I have to be careful what I eat in the morning, otherwise I'm having to stop at every bathroom.
Mhm.
So I actually found the UCAN gels that seem to work for my
Mhm.
stomach,
Mhm.
but it's
I like
not enough. I
UCAN.
did a half marathon several weeks ago, and it wasn't enough to keep me going I mean, at the end of that race, I mean, I was out of gas completely. I mean, I could, so what could I eat during those longer runs where it would keep my energy up and keep me going?
Yeah, you are, this is my empirical theory. I find about 5% of athletes really have severe problems with eating anything before a race, and even during. They get really bad diarrhea. They have severe abdominal distress or stomach distress. Those are the two major things. And the answer, I had somebody like that who could not get beyond 16 miles. She would start slowing down and slowing down and slowing down. Really good athlete, very healthy, young girl. I want to say she was in her late 20s, early 30s, I think early 30s, like 32, 31. Anyway, young woman. And what she found, and it really is the answer, is trial and error. And what she found for her, and I'm not recommending this to everybody because it's, not for everyone, but she found that she could put orange slices, peel oranges, put orange slices like half an orange or a quarter of an orange in a Ziploc plastic bag and break them apart in that bag. And every quarter of the race, she would finish off another bag, and she had 4 bags with her. And I'm not even sure how she stored all of that, but she did. And man, she became a great runner, and she made it all the way to the finish line, no problem, ahead of me. And a year later, she went from group 5 to group 2. And, her whole world changed because she found something that she could do. She also, if I recall, ate one piece of toast, which isn't much, and with a little bit of, it was either butter or peanut butter, I don't remember which, on it before the race. And so it really wasn't much, you're talking. It was either butter or peanut butter, but that was that individual. So what I suggest for you is, and I do know a pace leader who has this very same issue really badly. And same thing, trial and error. So what I recommend for you is try different things. And I apologize now if they don't work. I hear you. But just try different things. Usually what you're going to find that will work will be something that's real food. If it's like this woman, oranges, maybe something like, I don't even know, like peanut butter, with like, or tahini sauce or something in a little, plastic container. I knew a guy who did years ago, oh, this is actually a recommendation, and this guy tried it and he said it worked great, was peanut butter. You make a yam, bake a yam, which has fiber in it, bake a yam, scoop out the inside from the skin, right? And put it in a plastic bag or put it in a container or whatever. Put a couple spoonfuls, like 5 scoops of peanut butter on it, or tahini sauce or whatever on it, and cover it with honey. Honey is also an anti-inflammatory. And this guy did that, and it gave him a ton of energy because it was real food. You can also find that in certain like baby food products, pardon me, that have yams. I don't know if they have honey in it, but yams will come with other fruits, that might work really well. That kind of thing. I've done a lot with baby food. You want the bigger the calorie count in baby food. You don't want to go for a thing of baby food that's all like mulched vegetables, because it'll probably have a calorie count of like 30 or 40 grams. You want to shoot for like 80 or 90 grams. If you can find baby food that's like 100 grams, that's gold, or you, like I said, with this guy, he kind of made his own. He had a tiny little plastic spoon and his little tiny plastic Tupperware container that he'd put in his back pocket kind of thing. And he'd pull it out at water tables. And I saw him do it, and it worked fine for him, you know. I gather he kept the spoon separate from the tub. It wasn't just inside of it getting all mushed. But something like that you will find will work for you. Oranges, of course, highly acidic, citric acid. Doesn't make sense that it would work. It worked great for that one woman. It may work for you, I don't know.
Okay, well, I'll try different things and see what works best for me then.
Yeah, but I think you will find the answer in some kind of real food, you know, softer real food, maybe a fruit, maybe not, maybe honey. You know, they do make those little sticks with honey in it that you kind of, you know, squeeze open into like coffee or tea, you know, those little honey sticks. Maybe something like that could certainly also carbohydrate, tons of carbohydrate, anti-inflammatory. It's better to have non-processed honey. There are more micronutrients in it. But that's another story. I apologize. It's all trial and error, though. You know.
Thank you.
Sure. I wish I had a better answer. Hopefully that gets you on the right track. You are not alone. I guarantee you that. You are definitely not alone. Like I say, I do know a PACE leader with us for many years who has horrible problems with eating food during or before. You can kind of carbo load the night before. You'll find out what you're capable of eating. You know, you don't want to eat too much the night before, like I said, but you want to have as much, it's probably not much at all, but as much breakfast as you possibly can without getting those symptoms. But even that's going to be minimal. So yeah, it's all going to be trial and error for you.
Yeah, I think the only thing right now that's working is bread. One slice of
Okay.
bread or a bagel, plain
Mhm.
bagel with nothing on it. And that's kind of what I've been doing. I can't eat anything.
Yeah,
I tried
during
the oatmeal bananas, they go right through me.
yeah, oatmeal gets pretty heavy. I've had
Uh,
problems with eating oatmeal and then running out the door. I feel like I have a brick in my stomach. Now, obviously, on a marathon, you have a couple of hours wait. So I personally would tend to at least have some oat flakes with my cereal or whatever, just to have some more calories. Because you do have a long wait before driving there and then going to the porta potty or the bathroom and then waiting in line at the start. And, you know, you do have a fair amount of time before. I had only oatmeal before the New York Marathon because it's a 3-hour wait before the New York Marathon. And then I ate more food before leading up to the race. I always stop an hour and a half before a race, but that's me. That's my regimen. I need to stop an hour and a half before. You probably need to stop much longer before that. And with a piece of bread in you, that's what, 100 calories? That's nothing. I'll go for like 600 or more calories, depending on how much time there is before breakfast and the race. But hopefully that gives you kind of an idea. And then during the race, you're absolutely 100 calories before your race is not going to get you through that race on carbohydrate. You're going to need to find something like that woman found oranges. I don't know what our pace leader uses during the race, but I do know she has found certain things during the race. I think it might have been baby food for her. I think that might have been the answer. Certain baby food products. They come in little, you know, kind of gel-like devices with a plastic knob on the top. You
Right.
just what's that?
No, I've seen those actually.
Yeah. You may want to try one, especially on a shorter run, just so if you do have those symptoms, you know, you're not going to be stuck out there for a long period of time. And, you know, there is the idea that if you do have those symptoms, just stop and walk back, just lower your heart rate, and your stomach will start to, become more efficient. The blood will go back more into your stomach. It will, because like I said, it gets diverted away from your stomach, into your arms and legs. With you, a lot of it sounds like is getting diverted out away from your stomach. And, just slow down and walk and sit for a while, and your stomach efficiency will come back, and all those maladies will go away. Stomach distress and diarrhea, all that stuff. So there you go.
Thank you.
Sure, you got it. You're welcome. Any other questions, either verbally or written in the chat? I see, I think, one more chat question. Let's see if I got the last of the chat questions. Mariana, thank you. Baby food with salt sticks worked well for me last year. Thanks for the tip, Coach. Mariana, thank you for suggesting that. Salt stick. Oh, salt stick is the little mineral pill that you take. She took with baby food, like I kind of suggested. Bertina, wonderful meeting, Coach. Thanks. I have to leave now. See you Saturday morning. Bertina, thank you. And good. One last question I have in the chat. Aren't you supposed to have a gel every 45 minutes or 5 miles? I'm not sure what 5 miles has to do with it, but every 45 minutes, also regardless of total mileage. Oh, there you go. The answer would be no, regardless of total mileage. My question is why would you need carbohydrate if you don't need carbohydrate? Got it? If you're not going beyond 80, 90 minutes, what the hell? You can, take in carbs after your race, your run. And if you're going too high a heart rate, we're supposed to be like easy pace, which is supposed to be a minute to a minute and a half slower. This is runners. Now, run walkers are kind of like in the middle there. They're a little faster, a little slower for their easy pace than marathon race pace. And walkers are actually a little faster in training than marathon race pace. But all of those groups together are still at a heart rate, especially runners, where you're using more fat as a resource for ATP fuel than you would be at a little higher heart rate, right? So, I've done a 20-mile run without gels. I just did it slow enough, because I was really focusing on that fat burning aerobic zone you saw on that chart earlier, that aerobic zone where you're developing those capillary veins and arteries and mitochondria and oxidative enzymes. And if you're too high a heart rate, where one, you need a gel, you need to take in carbohydrates. The higher your heart rate goes, the more carbohydrates you use. Got the picture? And if you're using too many carbohydrates, you're not in that fat burning zone where you're developing that mitochondria and oxidative enzymes and capillary veins and arteries. You're not developing those things. Those are the things we call endurance. That's what's going to take you farther. You may be training too fast if you need carbs. And you're also training your body to use fat more efficiently at lower heart rate. So by taking in carbs, you're training your body to use carbs. You're not training to use your body to use fat. Fat is a far more abundant reservoir. You could go a whole marathon with just low heart rate fat than you could with training your body to use carbs. Carbs is a limited reservoir, like I say, about 80, 90 minutes worth at a little above marathon race pace. So I'm not sure why you need to take in carbs regardless of the total mileage. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Especially if the long, slow distance is utilizing more fat. That's your focus. Your focus of those Saturday morning runs is all about focus on fat burning, not carbohydrate utilization, fat. That's where you get endurance. Fat, capillary veins, mitochondria, oxidative enzymes, all those things, low heart rate. That's why we don't care about average pace. We care about things like heart rate. We care about things like you're not breathing too hard. That's indicative of what your heart is. If you really, really need a gel because you're out there for longer than, if you need a gel and it's less than 80, 90 minutes, my God, you're doing like 10K pace. You forget it. You're so high a heart rate, going so too fast. You forget endurance. You're training for a mile or a 5K, not 26. So, yeah, I mean, I've gone 20 miles without a gel at all, and I'm fine, but I just slowed down, you know. And my threshold was at the time high enough where I was still in that aerobic fat burning zone. I know some faster 3-hour or sub 3-hour marathoners. Keep in mind, sub 3, you're talking 6 minutes something pace. They can do an 8:30 pace, and they're in that fat burning zone. They're not, you know, but they've just dropped 2 minute per mile pace roughly, or almost 2 minutes, certainly a minute and a half, and then some, to get into that fat burning zone. So it all depends what your ability level is at. And yeah, they'll just keep going, no problem, easy pace, comfortable. That's where you really want to be. You really want to be a minute, minute and a half minimum slower. Any of your pace leaders who are taking you, unless it's a downhill's a whole different story because your heart rate will be lower. But if any of your pace leaders are taking you faster than a minute per mile slower than marathon race pace, and you're a run group, like I said, run, walk, it's, you know, you're a little faster, a little slower. Walk, you're going to be a little faster than marathon race pace. But if you're faster than a minute per mile, slower than marathon race pace, and you're in a run group, tell that pace leader, slow it down. There are some groups that do that. Go to a slower group. I've been trying to beat that into them for years now. Historically, it was a train wreck out there. It was a total train wreck. We now have hopefully a little more information with the last coach and me. I coached the last coach, so it's been getting a lot better. I left the Roadrunners because I couldn't control it. I saw the writing on the wall. I give up. I left. I had my own group in Griffith Park. They wanted to go Saturdays, and I went with them for Saturdays. That's the honest to God truth. They just didn't get it. They didn't want to get it. I don't know what to tell you, but they're a lot better now. They're, since the last coach and me, they've been getting way, 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 way better. Pace leaders out there. But let them know. You know, if they're faster on a flat ground, or especially an uphill, than a minute slower, a minute and a half slower than marathon race pace, they need to slow down. So there you go. Any other questions? Oh, do you supposed to have a gel every 45 minutes? Not in training, because you're so much slower, lower heart rate in training. During the marathon, yeah, because you want to keep those glycogen levels on high and not worry about depleting glycogen levels. Because toward the end of your race, you know, we only build up 20 miles. Toward those last 6 miles, your heart rate's going higher and higher and higher. Now you're just using only, you could get to a point you're anaerobic, meaning no fat. You're without oxygen. You need oxygen in order to metabolize fat. And anaerobic means without oxygen. You're now just depleting carbohydrate way down. So the last few miles of your race, you could theoretically speed up, but you're not going to be able to do that if you've already depleted in carbs. You want your glycogen levels, your carb levels pretty high, you know, throughout the race. Just keep taking in more and more carbs in whatever form you're capable of taking them in. That's an important element of your race. But that's race. Racing is not training. Training is training. Racing is racing. Don't race your training. It's a whole different ballgame. So yeah, avoid carbs right now. Start utilizing more fat efficiently. You're not going to be using ketones because you're still sitting down, you're still using carbs. Sitting right now, you're all using some carbs. You're just not depleting them rapidly. So there you go. You can go a couple of hours without eating because you're not depleting carbs that quickly. But you still do need to eat, every 4 hours, you get hungry, 3-4 hours, just sitting still, as we are now. Looks like I have another message. Chat. Here we go. Oh, Jaime said, got it. That explained it. Good. Okay. Oh, wait. Yeah, there you go. Any other questions? With that, going once, more questions, verbally or in chat, going once, going twice, going 3 times. With that, I'm going to call it quits. And I thank those of you who have been online live for staying with me the whole duration here. We still have about 14 people left of the 30-something that we had earlier during my main talk on carbs. And those of you who are watching at home, I thank you. If you've survived this whole distance of our chat, great. I'm saying goodnight to everybody, virtually or live. Good night, and thanks for watching. Anyway, take care, you guys. We'll see you Saturday or Sunday in Newport Beach. Yeah, thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Bye, you guys.
Thank you, Coach David. Good night.
Good
See you
night,
again.
Gil. Take care. You will be missed this week. I'm going to turn off the recording. Thanks, everybody.